Kenneth Supreme McGriff was born on September 19, 1960, in South Jamaica, Queens, New York City. Growing up in a neighborhood rife with poverty and crime, McGriff was exposed to the harsh realities of street life from a young age. Despite his environment, he exhibited a keen intelligence and a natural leadership ability, traits that would later help him rise to power within the criminal underworld. McGriff's early life was marked by typical urban struggles. With limited opportunities for legitimate success, he was drawn to the lucrative drug trade that was flourishing in his neighborhood. By the late 1970s, as the crack cocaine epidemic began to sweep across the United States, McGriff saw an opportunity to make a name for himself and secure financial stability. In the early 1980s, Kenneth McGriff founded the Supreme Team, a notorious drug trafficking organization that would become one of the most powerful and feared criminal enterprises in New York City. The Supreme Team operated primarily in the Baisley Park Houses, a public housing project in South Jamaica, Queens, which served as their headquarters. The Supreme Team was not just any drug gang, it was an organization that ran with military precision. McGriff modeled his operation on the hierarchical structure of the Mafia, establishing a strict chain of command and enforcing discipline among his members. This structure allowed the Supreme Team to efficiently manage their drug distribution network and maintain control over their territory. At its peak, the Supreme Team was making millions of dollars a year. Their primary product was crack cocaine, which was cheap to produce, highly addictive, and in massive demand. The Supreme Team's operations were not limited to drug trafficking, they also engaged in violent crimes, including murder, to protect their business interests and eliminate rivals. McGriff's leadership and strategic thinking were key factors in the Supreme Team's rise to power. He was known for his ability to forge alliances and manipulate those around him to further his goals. His charisma and business acumen helped him maintain control over his organization and expand its influence. One of McGriff's most significant relationships was with Lorenzo "Fat Cat" Nichols, another prominent drug dealer in Queens. The alliance between McGriff and Nichols allowed the Supreme Team to expand their operations and consolidate their power. Together, they controlled a significant portion of the drug trade in Queens and maintained a fearsome reputation that deterred potential competitors. The Supreme Team's success also drew the attention of law enforcement. Throughout the 1980s, the NYPD and federal agencies launched numerous investigations into the organization's activities. Despite their efforts, McGriff and his associates managed to evade capture for several years, thanks to their sophisticated operations and the loyalty of their members. In 1987, McGriff's luck began to run out. He was arrested and charged with drug trafficking and racketeering. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and in 1989, he was convicted and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. His incarceration marked the beginning of the end for the Supreme Team, as law enforcement intensified their efforts to dismantle the organization. While McGriff was behind bars, the Supreme Team struggled to maintain its power. Infighting and increased pressure from law enforcement led to a decline in their operations. By the early 1990s, the once mighty Supreme Team had largely disbanded, and many of its members were either incarcerated or dead. Kenneth McGriff was released from prison in 1995, after serving 6 years of his sentence. Upon his release, he attempted to transition into the legitimate business world, particularly the music industry. He established a relationship with Irv Gotti, the founder of Murder Inc. Records, a successful hip-hop label. McGriff saw an opportunity to leverage his street credibility and business acumen to build a new empire in the music industry. He began investing in Murder Inc. and became involved in the production of music videos and other aspects of the business. This transition seemed to signal a new chapter in McGriff's life, one that was free from the violence and crime of his past. Despite his efforts to go legitimate, McGriff's past continued to haunt him. In 2003, he was implicated in a federal investigation into Murder Inc. and its alleged ties to drug trafficking and money laundering. The investigation, known as Operation Double Jeopardy, aimed to uncover the extent of McGriff's involvement in the label and determine whether he was using it as a front for criminal activities. The investigation revealed a complex web of connections between McGriff, Murder Inc., and various criminal enterprises. Federal authorities alleged that McGriff was laundering drug money through the label and using his influence to protect his interests. The scrutiny intensified when McGriff was linked to several high-profile murders, including the 2001 killing of aspiring rapper E. Money Bags and the 2002 murder of Marcus Smith. In 2005, McGriff was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder, racketeering, and drug trafficking. The evidence against him was damning, including wiretap recordings, witness testimonies, and forensic evidence. The trial was a media sensation, with prosecutors painting McGriff as a ruthless criminal who used his influence to orchestrate murders and maintain his drug empire. In 2007, Kenneth McGriff was convicted on multiple charges, including murder for hire, drug trafficking, and racketeering. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The conviction marked the culmination of McGriff's criminal career and brought an end to the saga of the Supreme Team. Kenneth Supreme McGriff's life is a stark illustration of the intersection between the street and the music industry. His rise to power, fall from grace, and attempts to transition into the legitimate business world reflect the complexities and challenges faced by those who navigate these dual realms. The Supreme Team's influence extended beyond the drug trade. They were a significant part of the cultural fabric of Queens and had a lasting impact on the community. Their story is one of ambition, power, and the inevitable consequences of a life of crime. McGriff's relationship with the music industry, particularly his involvement with Murder Inc., highlights the blurred lines between legitimate business and criminal activity. His attempts to leverage his street credibility into success in the music world underscore the challenges faced by those with criminal backgrounds trying to go legitimate. Despite his incarceration, McGriff's legacy endures. He remains a controversial figure in the history of New York City's criminal underworld, remembered both for his ruthless ambition and his attempts to reform. The story of Kenneth Supreme McGriff and the Supreme Team serves as a cautionary tale about the allure of power and the inevitable downfall that comes with a life of crime.